fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. For your latest news in high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull when you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. You got Craig and TK and Head Left tune in at the fish report.
Coming to you live from Studio F in Russia, Ohio. It's the Fish Report Live Show with your hosts, Craig Fissinger and Ken Francis.
Welcome, everyone, to another Fish Report Live. I'm Craig Fissinger. That's Ken Francis. We're your hosts tonight. Back in the sound room are TK and Heavy D. We're going to be joining those guys here in just a little bit. And Ken, it's getting crazy out there. It was Upset Tuesday in the SCAL this past week. In the MAC, we've got teams that are typically at the bottom of the standings that are at the top now, and teams that are typically at the top down at the bottom. And we're loving every minute of it, aren't we?
Yes, we are, Craig. You know, it's just showing the parity of high school basketball on the boys' side in this area this year. You know, just the MAC's flipped all over the place. The Shelby County League standings, you got 3 teams battling for the top spot. You only got 3 teams in the whole league with a winning record, Craig. The other 4 teams all have losing records in the league standings. Very interesting this week. And, you know, we're looking to telling our listeners all about it tonight.
Now, speaking of MAC basketball, we're going to have our first MAC boys interview of the winter sports season coming up tonight.
Yes, we are, Craig. He's the head coach of the Marion Local Flyers. He's taken the Flyers to the regional finals the last 2 years. He's in his 5th season at Marion Local. That's the head coach of the Marion Local Flyers, Kurt Goettemoeller. Looking forward to talking to Coach Goettemoeller here in a little while on our show.
And speaking of MAC basketball, our tonight's poll question is a MAC basketball question.
Yes, it is, Craig. You know, and when you look at the first 3 names, it looks like they're football standings or something up there. But there's 4 teams left in the league with 0 losses or 1 loss. And which of these teams has the best chance to come out on top of the MAC title this season? Is it Coldwater, Fort Recovery, Marion Local, or Versailles? All of our listeners and viewers out there, get on your computers, get online, check who you feel is going to win the MAC this year. We'll check the telemetrics later in the night and see what you guys have to say.
Yeah, if you're not watching us on the Fish Report Live page and you're watching us on NK Teleco or GameFace Ohio, we will have those results for you at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. All right, well, let's get things started with something we like to do called 5 for Fighting, which basically means I've picked 5 subjects between you, I, and the sound room guys. We fight for our opinions on those subjects, and let's check out what tonight's topics are. There they are. We've got Chant Ban, Weekend Wrap, SCAL Shakeup, Game of the Week, and NFL Picks. And we'll get things started with Chant Ban. And the OHSAA Sports Twitter account had an interesting link this past week on the state of Wisconsin. Their athletic association actually is putting a ban on certain chants at high school basketball games. Things like air ball, and you can't do that, and scoreboard. You can't say those any longer. I want to know, what are your thoughts on that? And, you know, or if you pay your $6, should you be able to say what you want?
Craig, that's crazy. I think you should be able to say, for the most part, what you want, as long as there's no profanity involved. You know, this isn't golf or tennis where you got to be quiet. You know, air ball, winning team, losing teams, things like that. You know, hey, the kids are just having fun. They're paying their $6. And, you know, as long as they're not using profanity, say what you want up there in the bleachers and have a good time.
I want to tell you what, Craig. There's a couple out there that are a little risque. Something about nuts and bolts and something about an elevator shaft. I like the one where when the game's in the bag and the kids chant, drive home safely. That's the one I like.
TK, what do you think about the chants? Any of them out there that you're against?
Oh, like Ken said, you got to watch your profanity, but you got to like scoreboard. You got to like it when the little kids pull out we believe we're going to win with about a minute or 2 to go. That kind of rubs it in pretty good, but you know, you got to have a little bit of fun. It's all
fun.
about the competition and getting people all riled up a little bit there. That's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you guys. You know, we're talking about 15, 16, 18-year-old kids here, and they're still shaping these kids. And I think if an administrator, the school board, the state, whatever, wants to restrict what they say at a high school basketball game, I think they should be allowed. I mean, if you're in college or anywhere else above that, I guess, you know, so be it. But these kids don't know the difference between right and wrong yet, and I think that if the state decides they need to step in and maybe restrict some of what they say, I don't have a problem.
Is the OHSAA paying you on the side to say that?
No, but that's my feeling. Like I said, you got a 15-year-old kid out there. I know I've got a 15-year-old kid, and sometimes they don't know the difference between right and wrong. 18-year-old, yeah, they should know. But if the school wants to tell my 15-year-old what to say at a basketball game, representing the school, I don't have a problem with it. All right, let's move ahead to weekend wrap, and we got a chance here in this past weekend to watch a few schools that we don't normally see. Heavy D, I saw you at the Russia girls game when they took on Miami East. I was actually talking about Miami East several weeks ago, talking about a freshman star over there by the name of Morgan Haney. And I want to know your thoughts on the Vikings over there. First time you've seen them this season.
Yeah, the Raiders took their 9-6 record against the Vikings at home, and Raiders came out on top. And for the freshman Morgan Haney, I think they held her to single digits on the game. Russia put up a lot of threes, hit quite a few of them. Scrappy, hustled. The Miami East was decent. They just couldn't keep up with Russia's pace.
Well, Kenya, speaking of that CCC, actually Russia's on the middle of a 7-game winning streak right now, and 4 of those teams that they've beat are 4 of the top 5 teams in the CCC. What does that say about the CCC?
Well, Craig, I think that's 2 things. It tells you the Russia girls are pretty good for being mediocre in the Shelby County League, but it's also telling you that CCC, Craig's really just not that strong. Now, the last time I said something about this was directed a little bit at the Tri-Village Patriots, and if you remember, that was a couple years ago, and they showed me who was right and who was wrong on that night. But I'm going to tell you right now, the CCC girls, top to bottom, can't touch the Shelby County League girls top to bottom. You look at the Shelby County League girls, you got Lormy and Anna, 2 state championship quality teams right there. And, you got Houston clear down at the bottom who almost beat an undefeated Sydney team just a week and a half ago. So Shelby County League girls are really good this year.
And of course, the top team in the CCC is Tri-Village. The Tri-Village girls haven't played them. That's the one team that Russia hasn't played. And they look to be very good this year, but it would be interesting to see our Raiders go up against Tri-Village and just to see what kind of game that would be. And TK, I know you got a chance to watch the Triad come to Russia for perhaps maybe the first time ever. Triad boys came there on Saturday night. What did you think? That was a rematch of the Piqua sectional last year between Russia and Triad. Any chance we could see them maybe later this season?
I definitely could see them again. They were definitely, not only the team, but I think their fans were a little fired up to try and come into Russia and give a little payback. The Raiders, of course, held on, but that is a nice team, a lot of good athletes. Young team, I think they only lost 1 kid from last year, and definitely a chance to see them again in the tournament because they'll fight all the way through every one of those games. There's not too much give up in that team, and really impressed with the way they played.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Ohio Heritage Conference this year. I know West Liberty's very good over there right now, but Triad seemed like a quality team. I thought it was a good win for Russia, and I agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised to see them at the end of the season. All right, well, let's move ahead to SCAL shakeup, and there certainly was a shakeup in the SCAL on Tuesday night. Anna upset our Russia Raiders. Houston got their first league win, upsets Botkins, and then Fairlawn, even though they're a little bit ahead of Fort Laramie in the standings, Laramie having a problem defending their home floor. Fairlawn gets the win over there. What do you make all this?
Well, Craig, the Anna game, Russia and Anna, really didn't surprise me. I knew it would be a very good game. It was a lot closer than a 10 or 12-point game. I mean, it was a 2-point game with 2.5 minutes to go. Anna's got a very athletic team, Craig. They're sitting at 7-2 right now. They might be in somewhat of the driver's seat here. You got Russia Jackson Center got to square off again. But like I said earlier in the show, Craig, you got 3 teams in the whole league with winning records in the league. And, but none of them are bad teams. I mean, Fairlawn is a very dangerous team sitting there at 4-5. Fort Laramie, a solid team. They're just 3-6 in the league, but a very solid basketball team. Botkins has had a couple nice wins this year, and Houston, stuck it to a decent Covington team pretty good the other night and then turned around and beat Botkins. So hard to say what's going to happen in the league.
Yeah, they ousted also a team that played Jackson Center close in their first meeting.
Both times.
What do you think, guys?
Well, you got the 3 teams up top, but I think you got a lot of spoiler potential at the bottom of the lineup there. And look out for Fairlawn. Look out for Laramie to knock somebody off. I mean, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, like Ken said, a lot of people can argue that wasn't an upset the other night. Anna and Russia. Anna is 7-2 at home, 3-4 on the road. So you got to wonder about that team as they move down through the rest of the season, then got to go on the road for tournament time. If they can get that team working on the road, they'll be very dangerous the rest of the season, and they'll make a deep run in their tournament as well, I believe. But only 3-4 on the road right now. Kind of iffy. Got to get those guys playing well on the road, but
yeah,
nice team.
I'm going to jump on that Anna bandwagon as well. I'm glad they're Division III, but Jackson Center still has Anna to play. They still have Russia to play, and so there's a lot that can happen there. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Anna at the top of those standings at the end of the season. All right, let's move ahead to game of the week and some big games coming up this weekend. Any particular games that you guys are interested in?
Craig, I'm going to jump on the Fort Recovery at Coldwater game. The game in the Palace League Championship, the MAC Championship, are for first place on the line. You got two defending state champions in football now playing for the first place in the MAC. Are you kidding me?
Hard to believe.
Are you kidding me? They're going to get the pads out and the helmets maybe and finish off the see who's got a better football team too after the game. I don't know, but going to be a great game over there at the Palace in Coldwater. Fort Recovery at Coldwater. Great game Friday night.
How about you guys?
Looking forward to Russia at Versailles. It'll be a big bounce back game. Of course, they got a game Friday night too to kind of bounce back from a loss, but always a good matchup with Versailles. Always a good game, as I said, and it'll be fun to see the Orange Boy and just how those two teams match up. Also, as Ken said, that's going to be a heck of a matchup there in the MAC with Fort Recovery and Coldwater playing for first place in basketball.
I'm looking forward to the backyard rival game against Fort Laramie on Friday. I know Rishi went there and took the freshman JV and varsity game. Don't expect the same coming back. Laramie's got a bone to pick with us, and all three of those games were close contests, and I look for that to be a good night of basketball. Yeah,
it's Rushia's got back-to-back tough ones there. I'm going to go over to the GWAC North, talk some girls, and I'm looking forward to that Sydney at Vandalia game. Top two teams in the GWAC North. I'm not quite up to speed on Sydney. I think they're going for 18-0. I know they were 16-0 at one time. They haven't picked up a loss here in the last couple of days, I don't think. So, again, I believe they're going for an 18-0 record. Just a phenomenal team, and they're doing it back-to-back years now. But that should be an interesting game. We'll see if Sydney can advance. All right, guys, and we'll move to our last one. And we don't just have to talk high school sports here. We can delve in a little bit of professional sports, and, of course, the NFL AFC Championship, NFC Championship coming up this Sunday. I want to know, who are your picks to go to the Super Bowl?
Craig, I'm going to go with the home team, the Denver Broncos, and then I'm also going to go with I got to take Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. I just think they've been the team to beat all year, and they're on home. I'll take the two home teams.
I'm a Bengals fan, but I really like to see Carson Palmer do good with the Arizona Cardinals. I'm taking the Cardinals over the Panthers.
What about you, TK?
Have to go with the home teams myself as well. Denver over New England. Both games will be close. Panthers, a little iffy at the end of the game last week, but I think they'll hold out as well, and it'll be Panthers and the Broncos.
All right. Well, listen, I was actually a guest on a show last night. Kyler Ludlow, former Fort Laramie guy down in Enon, Ohio, now has a website called Hometown Sports Heroes. And he had a podcast last night, asked me that exact question, who I thought would win both those games. And I told him, being a Browns fan, my season always ends early. I never get a root for anybody come playoff times. And believe it or not, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but I'm kind of a Patriots fan. And I like Tom Brady. I know he's a Michigan man, and I live here in Ohio, but I like Tom Brady. He's got a couple nice weapons there, and Gronk, their tight end, and Edelman, one of their wide receivers. They don't have any kind of running game to speak of over there, but it doesn't matter to Tom Brady. I think he goes to Denver in the mile-high air over there and picks up a win, and I think he faces off with Carolina in the Super Bowl. So those are my two picks to go to the Super Bowl. All right, well, that's going to do it for our Five for Fighting. If you like what we had to say, or you did like what we had to say, you can let us know on Twitter. There's our Twitter handle there at the top of the screen, @FishReport. We love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for the first half of our show. We're going to take a short break, but stay right there. When we come back, we're going to talk to Marion Local coach Kurt Goettemoeller. We'll be right back.
Open stage at the leaving van. Music starts at 8 o'clock. You can find us here every Wednesday night. It's usually the same cats every week, but I can't tell you all their names. A teacher, a cat, and a junkie, all waiting for time to play. Everybody here's got something that we're trying to leave behind. We're all a little broken, looking for a place to hide. Get no answers, don't ask any questions. We're all here just looking for a high. And we're all beautifully broken here tonight.
Welcome back to the second half. Fish Report Live. All right, we got our audio fixed there now. But Ken, like I said at the top of the show, haven't had a chance to talk MAC boys basketball or do a MAC boys basketball interview, and we're going to get that done tonight. But before we do that, do want to go through those MAC standings. And like you said, a little goofy there with some teams at the top that we don't normally see. Let's run through those standings real quick.
Yeah, Craig, you look at these standings this year, and you got Fort Recovery sitting there at the top, 3-0. Along with Coldwater, also at 3-0. We talked about that game just a little bit ago. Versailles, Marion Local, both with one loss. And, Marion's got off to a kind of a slow start this year, as well as Fort Recovery and Coldwater. All three of them teams, playing a lot of games, trying to catch up in their schedule. But they're getting there, Craig. It's just a great league again, as it normally is. Lost a lot of individual talent from last year. Lost a couple guys to big-time Division I basketball programs, as well as a couple other kids to D2, D3 programs. But, the MAC's still strong. It's a little different than it used to be, when you look at those standings. But for the most part, from top to bottom, still a very solid league.
All right, well, our next guest knows a thing or two about winning in the MAC, and that's because his conference record is 18-3 the last 3 seasons. He's the head coach of the Marion Local Flyers, Kurt Goettemoeller. Coach, welcome to Fish Report Live, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Craig. Appreciate being on.
All right, well, listen, your team got a late start like you typically do because of football, which makes your December schedule kind of interesting, but you've seen it kind of settle down here in January. You've won 4 of your last 5 this year so far, including a big win Saturday night against the SCAL leader, Jackson Center Tigers. That was kind of a rematch from last year's regional semi game. Your thoughts on that big win over Jackson Center?
It was a much-needed win. We were coming off the night before when we played St. Henry, and we played very poorly against St. Henry. And so, we showed a lot of fight. Against St. Henry, we had gotten down 27-10 in the first quarter. We played very, very poorly, and our bugaboo all year has been the first quarter. We're outscoring teams in the other 3 quarters, but in the first quarter, teams are outscoring us, and Jackson Center, they had us down about 18-6 with 5 minutes left to go in the second quarter, and we were struggling. We were able to go inside and get a few easy hoops, and we got the Wildermuth boy in foul trouble, and we went on like a 15-0 run to take the lead at the half. And then we got, in a situation in the second half, we scored a few baskets to get the lead right away, and I was just pleased overall because we defended them pretty well. We ended up going 21 of 25 from the foul line. We did a lot of good things, and it was good to come back and get a win after we had played poorly the night before.
Yeah, it certainly was a nice win, like I said, against our best in the SCAL right now. And being Russia fans over here, Coach, we never get an opportunity to see your team until it seems like the end of the season. This year we play at your place on February 13th. So fill us in a little bit on your team. Who's playing well for you right now?
Yeah, we've certainly had a lot of big games with Russia the last couple years, but like you said, we don't play you guys till the end of the year, and so yeah, we don't. And I'll be honest, I scouted you guys last night. Was the first time I've seen you guys play, and you got a nice team over there. You know, we have a lot of new faces from a year ago. Certainly, most of your fans will remember Cole Griesdarn, our point guard. He's been a 4-year starter now for us, and he's a tough kid. He battles through a lot of injuries. He's got some knee issues and some shoulder issues, some stuff he's dealing with football, and he's flying around, and he plays hard. He does a good job for us. And then we've got 2 other seniors that start for us, Derek Albers and Kyle Holman. And those guys, they came off the bench for us last year, but they largely are trying to work themselves in. It was tough last year with all the talent we had that those guys didn't get as much of an opportunity as maybe they would have liked, and they're certainly getting an opportunity to show their talents this year. And then we've got 2 underclassmen that also start for us. Tyler Mesher's a sophomore post player, and I think he's definitely surprised some people with his ability to score around the rim this year, even though he's only 6'1". He's a strong kid in there, and he rebounds well. And then finally, Nate Bruns is just a freshman, and we didn't know how he would respond going from 8th grade to varsity ball, but Nate's done a very good job for us so far.
Coach, listen, this is Ken. Let me ask you a couple questions about the game you got coming up Friday night against Versailles. You got to travel to Versailles. They lost 2 games last weekend to 2 very good basketball teams. So do you feel this is a good chance to catch the Tigers when they're down a little bit, or do you have concerns about the game Friday night?
Well, I think anytime you face an athletic and skilled team like Versailles, you certainly have some concerns. And Ken, like you mentioned, they played 2 very, very good teams last weekend. Fort Recovery is one of the top favorite teams in our league to win the league this year, and they lost in overtime over at Fort Recovery, so there's certainly no shame in that. And LCC is one of the best teams in the state, regardless of division. And I watched that game on film, and they were very, very competitive. So Versailles, they're capable of lining up against anybody, and yes, we do have some concerns, but we're also somewhat confident. We think if we play well that we can go over and get a win. They have a superstar in Justin Arntz, and they have a lot of long athletic kids. So we're going to have to go over there and compete and really battle with whether it be rebounding or trying to guard them. We just plan on going over there and competing like crazy, and hopefully we improve a little bit defensively, and we're looking forward to trying to do that Friday night.
Coach, last year in the MAC saw them lose a lot of big-time individual talent. Kind of like the whole area, there's a lot of good players in the senior class last year. The MAC was no different. You had Kyle Arntz, who ultimately ended up at Michigan State. You had Ryan Mikesell, who's now a Flyer at the University of Dayton, including your big man, Luke Kanapke, who's a Rocket down over there at Toledo. So with all this loss of individual talent in the MAC, do you feel the MAC's down a little bit this year, or just maybe more balanced, or what's your thoughts on the overall competition in the MAC?
Well, I don't really think it's fair to compare this year to last year. Last year was somewhat of an outlier or an aberration. I mean, it's pretty rare in a given year that you have 3 D1s and 2 Division II players in the same league in the same year. The last Division I player coming out of our league was probably Kurt Hilsman, probably 10 years ago or in that ballpark. And to have 3 Division I players in the same league in the same year is pretty outstanding. Plus, we had a couple of Division II players, and I'm talking Division II college. And so you can't really compare this year to last year. I think that's kind of unfair. I would say this year maybe would be slightly below average, but it's still a good league with a lot of talented players. I think some of the talented players are just underclassmen right now. So, you still have a lot of well-coached teams. Almost every team in the league is well-coached, and on every given night you're going to have a challenging opponent to face. So I would not necessarily call it a down league, just maybe slightly below average this year.
Coach, I've got one more question for you. And a couple weeks ago, we talked about some of the toughest gymnasiums to play in at the high school level in our area. And your gym over there at Marion Local came in as one of the top choices, as one of the toughest places to go and get a win for a visiting team. Do you like your gym over there? Kind of, or would you rather play in the mega complex where the fans are real far from the court and you can fit in an extra 500 people?
Well, I guess it's a two-part answer. The first part is I love our gym on game night. On game night, it's great because we have a tremendous atmosphere. It's unique. The ceiling's really low. I've had opposing coaches come and tell me, they feel like they almost got a duck when they walk in the gym, and that keeps the noise in there. We have great fans, certainly. So in terms of game night, I love our gym. It is unique, and it's a tough environment. And when I used to coach at Minster, I thought coming in it was a very difficult environment to win in. But in terms of practice, those gyms like a Minster, New Bremen, Coldwater, some of those bigger gyms, those are nice for practice because you got a lot more space. You can practice everybody at once. We have a lot of issues with gym space and sharing in like when we want to get in the spring and summer with softball and baseball and our school plays. So we have a lot of gym space issues. Now, some of those cavernous gyms, they lose a little bit of the atmosphere on game night, so there's some give and take there. But overall, I would say I would not trade our gym, which is the Hangar. I would not trade the Hangar for any gym.
Well, the Hangar's a tough place to play, as we've found out the last many years. So, hopefully our Raiders are going over your direction this year, and I'll be sure and duck my head when I walk in.
I'm sure it's going to be a fun game. It's a fun game when we tangle with you guys.
All right, Coach. Hey, listen, we got just a minute here, but I got one more question for you. Speaking of, we were talking about your gym a couple weeks ago. Tonight, we were actually talking about something. I don't know if you heard, but the state of Wisconsin, their athletic association, a story came out where they are actually banning or have banned certain chants that high school students may do at basketball games, things like air ball, and you can't do that. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it as a coach in Ohio. Do you agree with that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know that I necessarily have a strong opinion one way or the other. I mean, if somebody would present their side of the argument to me, I certainly could be swayed either way. I think people are a little bit softer than they used to be, and they're a little bit more ready to get upset about stuff like that. Maybe not quite as tough a skin as they used to be. We just preach to our players that, you're going to have to be mentally tough, and you're going to face challenges, and you're going to have people talking to you, whether it be opposing players or fans, that you've got to be mentally tough on the floor, and you've got to tune that stuff out and stay focused on the task at hand. So I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other. I really don't have a problem if students want to chant air ball or things like that. That's just part of the game in my mind. But like I said, I could listen to both sides of the argument and kind of go from there.
Well, listen, Coach, we appreciate you being on our show with us tonight. We know you're a busy man and got a game to get ready for Friday night. So best of luck to your Flyers the rest of the year. And, we'll see you at the end of the season, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Craig. Always enjoy being on. Ken, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach. All right, that was the head coach of the Marion Local Flyers, Kurt Goettemoeller. And, Ken, one thing we didn't mention, they have that game at Versailles on Friday. They actually finished the month with 5 games on the road. So we'll see what the Marion Local Flyers are made of. Well,
that's for sure. And the other thing we didn't mention, Craig, but they're actually Division III this year. So one thing we don't have to worry about is seeing the Marion Local Flyers in the postseason down at Trent Arena, as we've seen them the last 2 years when our Raiders were down there. So one team that won't be around is the Marion Local Flyers this year.
Interesting point you make there. And the divisional breakdown this year came to be Division 4 was 108 students or less. And guess what the Marion Local Flyers have? 109. 109.
That's right. Missed it by 1.
They missed it by 1.
And actually, St. Henry, I think, was just the opposite. They flip-flopped this year. So St. Henry's Division 4, Marion went to Division 3.
That's right. All right, well, one more thing to get to, and that is tonight's poll question. Why don't you read the poll question again, and we'll have TK and Heavy D check on the telemetrics.
Speaking of basketball, Craig, on the boys' side, who has the best chance to bring home the MAC boys title this season? Is it Coldwater, Fort Recovery, Marion Local, or Versailles? TK, what do the telemetrics have to say back here?
Telemetrics say it's a three-way tie tonight between Coldwater, Fort Recovery, and Marion Local. For some reason, nobody thinks Versailles has a shot.
Nobody can make their mind up, and I don't know if I agree with that. Versailles might be.
Versailles got a young team, but boy, they are athletic and long, so we'll see once.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us tonight. Do want to say special thanks to our guest, Kurt Goettemoeller, for joining us on the show tonight. Also, special thanks to the viewers out there for tuning in. Ken, I know you're on vacation, I believe, next week, so we'll miss you. I'm not sure how we'll handle that, but stay tuned. We'll have some information on the Fish Report website at fishreportonline.com regarding next week's show, if we do or don't broadcast. But until then, have a great rest of the week, and good night, everyone.
Hanging at the fish report. 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 For your latest news and high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull when you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report.